Kia ora, g'day. Welcome back once again here with part 3, I think. Part 3 of my reaction to Mr. Chris Miller, former Secretary of Defense, on toppling the Taliban on the Sean Ryan show. This is part 1 of what I can see as a 3-part series, so let's jump in.
I still kind of wonder about it, and then I'll tell you that the only thing that really mattered in my military career was response to September 11, 2001. I say in my book, I'd been an officer. I got commissioned in '87. Don't do public math, 13, 14 years, and I was in 5th Special Forces Group just up the road. I'm heading up there after this to see some folks. And I just, I had a really tough boss, battalion commander. I'm not going to tell you his name. He's really, really tough, man. And I was like, why am I putting up with this bullshit anymore? And I went home on the 10th of September. I swear this is a true story. We had 3 kids. They're all screwing off. My wife and I always have a cocktail, kind of day's over, let's catch up. Man, that day I got really deep. I was probably into my 4th beer, and I said, these are small times for small people. I said, we're getting out. I'm leaving the service. My wife is like, good, about time. My wife, you're way more talented than this stupid Army crap. And of course I didn't believe her. And I literally, September 11th, I went into work and I was going to resign my commission that day. Go run. Have you been to Fort Campbell? There's this thing called Clarksville. There's this thing, you got to go. You got to go up there. There's this thing called Clarksville Base. It's Cold War legacy. Crazy story. Won't bore you. Hilarious. I'm out there with the sergeant I worked with. I was a company commander. He was a company sergeant major. Just magnificent man. Went for a run. Just the 2 of us. We didn't go with the unit or anything. It was our time to talk shop, right? Got in the car and I'm driving back to work, and John Boy and Billy show. That's still on. The John Boy and Billy show is still on. It was new then. It was really this edgy, morning talk show. And, they were always hooting it up and comedic and whatnot. And all of a sudden they stopped and they're like, hey, we have a report of a plane hitting one of the towers at the World Trade Center. And the whole tone of the discussion, it went from jocular, fart jokes or something, to just stopped. And it was completely, and it got serious. I was like, oh, damn. Then somebody came on, they're like, oh, a plane hit the Empire State Building in 1944 or something. Maybe it's just an accident. I was like, this isn't an accident. Got back to work. Walked into the military intelligence shop because we didn't have TVs everywhere then. So crappy barracks, crappy workspace. And the only TVs were in the military intelligence section. I walked in there and I saw the second plane hit. And I was like, is that a rerun? And everybody was like, no. So was that a rerun of the first attack? Mm-hmm. So saw that. And at that point, I was like, I guess I'm not getting out of the service. And the most important thing I did in my entire professional life was respond to that attack. And went in, went down to Tampa, Florida, where the United States Central Command is, the command that's oversees the Middle East. And United States Special Operations Command is there as well. So I went down, my boss, who I had known from a previous assignment, asked me to go down with one sergeant to be the planner. So we get down there. It's called Special Operations Command Central, SOCCENT, Central Command's Special Operations Component. And they were
Hang on, I'm just going to pause this now before I forget and lose my train of thought. awesome conversation and him recalling what he was about to do. He was going to go into work and basically resign his commission. I think he said basically quit, get out of the Defence Force, which his wife was happy about. And then that happened. So the 10th of September, that's his plan. 11th of September rolls around. He goes in. That's what he's planning on doing. He hears this conversation and the pause and the tone and everything changing. I just wonder, it's not surprising on the back end of doing some reactions to the Tucker Carlson network and the 9/11 series, which he's done, which I think has been a fantastic series of shows. But I would say there would have been probably, I don't know about a lot of people, but there may have been some other people that might have been on the cusp of looking at leaving the military, wherever they were around the world, especially coalition forces, especially US forces. And then that likely changed it. But also how many people that those 9/11 events likely enlisted into the military, not just in the US, but I'd say in other parts of the world as well. So powerful thing. And like I said, in the Tucker Carlson network stuff that I've been reacting to, I brought that story hook, line, and sinker, man. My position has definitely changed on it, given the series which Tucker Carlson has done, and the investigation, the information that's gone into that. Just a whole bunch of questions, but I've been swayed more towards, there's a massive cover up and stuff that's taken place there, and it's a tragic thing. That's a tragedy in and of itself.
Out in this old Cold War bunker, ammo bunker, show up out there. I'm a new major, pretty junior, and the counterterrorism task force had taken over, and they're the lead planners, and I'm a Green Beret, so I'm nothing, right? I'm not special mission unit guy. I'm just like, oh, you're like, they called it white soft then, I was white and black soft. Black was the secret, like, SEAL Team 6 and Delta Force and all those folks, right? So they take over the planning space. Fortunately, I knew a buddy and he let me in. So I'm like, shit, Green Beret, man, I figured this stuff out, and I'm in there. And they planned the initial operations where Rangers jumped into that airfield, Objective Rhino, out in the desert. You had a guy on that talked about it. And then they also stormed Mullah Omar, who was the head of the Taliban. He had this beautiful compound that he built in Kandahar. They raided that thing, and Omar was gone, but they shot the shit out of the place. It was a brilliant operation. It was kind of our first big operation of the war. Helicopter hard landed, had some bad problems. I don't think nobody got killed. A couple people got injured on some hard landings. So I go down there to help plan. All of a sudden one day, this counterterrorism experts just disappear. They're gone, poof. And somebody yells, "Do we have any Green Berets here?" What do you need? They're like, we need to plan an unconventional warfare campaign. Unconventional warfare is where Green Berets go behind enemy lines. Think World War II France, where small commandos jumped in behind enemy lines, linked up with the resistance, the Maquis, the French resistance, got them ammunition, helped them train, help plan, and then help lead them to tear up the German forces that were behind the beaches that we were landing at. That's unconventional warfare. Go behind enemy lines, link up with the resistance force or to overthrow the government. And we had never done that before in the history of special forces. We were founded in 1951. It's like, I know how to do that. So we did the campaign. I was part of the planning element that did the campaign. Then I got to go do it.
You got to do it.
So I always find your replacement. I'm like, I'm going to get stuck down here, missing another war. I missed Panama. I missed Desert Storm. I'd missed everything. And Sean, you brought it up. You're like, that's Super Bowl, right? You don't join like, oh, I just want to stay here in, Fort Campbell and, take my kids to the daycare center and coach soccer. I missed everything, and I saw it happening again. I'm like, I'm going to get stuck down here while my unit goes and prosecutes this war. Always find your replacement. Got a guy to come in to backfill me. Off I go, pick up the remainder. So the entire group had deployed to Karshi-Khanabad in Uzbekistan, which was our forward operating base or advanced operating base. So we set up in Uzbekistan, which we now know is a toxic waste dump with radiological material. I can go on all day about that. But at the time, we didn't care because, like, we were going to bring vengeance on behalf of the United States, the people of the United States. We are going to bring vengeance to these sons of bitches. So we go to Uzbekistan. The group's over there. I show back up, I'm back. There are 5 A teams left. A team is 12 special Green Berets. It's the unit of choice for special forces. You've heard this before. You got 2 weapons experts. You got 2 medical experts that are like doctors. You got 2 engineers that know demolition and construction. You have 2 communicators that know how to do signal, to work the radios. You've got 2 senior NCOs that do intelligence and operations, and then you have 2 officers. You have a warrant officer. And those 12 people go behind enemy lines, and they can lead up to 1,200 indigenous forces, guerrillas. So that's what we're going to do, right? I show up, everybody's gone. We have 5 A teams left. Get the call, Miller, bring over the final 5 A teams. Go over, fly over, and get to Uzbekistan. This is Thanksgiving Day of 2001. Attack went in, Thanksgiving Day. And then there's this book, Studs Terkel wrote this book called The Good War. It's this book about World War II. And he interviewed his oral history, interviewed all these famous people, senators, titans of industry, all these people that have been fabulously successful. And he asked, what was the most important thing you did in your career? They're like, June 6, 1944. It's an 18-year-old machine gunner in the 1st Infantry Division. They're like, holy crap, you're Speaker of the House of Representatives. Now you're one of the most powerful people in the world. And they're like, none of this compares. That was the most important thing I did. I feel the same way about that operation. You ask, like, tell me about your career. None of it really matters except that one operation where I was like, I couldn't believe that I had been given the opportunity to be in the unit, 5th Special Forces Group, which everybody made fun of. Like, why would you ever go there? There are 5 Special Forces Groups. Why don't you go to 10th Group where you can go to Germany or 7th Group to South America? They're all regionally aligned, and ours is the Middle East. Nobody wants, no offense, like, I can go to Cartagena in Colombia and make max per diem, like $200 a day, have a really good time. Or if you're in the 1st Special Forces Group in the Pacific, like, hey, Thailand training with Thai Special Forces, that's a pretty good gig, right? Mm-hmm. We had the Middle East.
Man, just the scope, The scope of their presence and the deployments or places where they can go and serve. Phenomenal. And part and parcel of the reason why their knowledge, their experience, the forces that they're able to bear in any conflict or war of their choosing. What's his name? The War Secretary, Department of War Secretary, Pete Hegseth. It's not surprising with places like that have been established for however many years. To be able to go to places like that, it's interesting how he's talking about we had the Middle East and nobody wanted to go there. Interesting. Anyway, I want to hear what more he has to say. But why wouldn't people want to go there?
We were the laughing stock. But when the war came to us, I was in the unit that went there. And at the end of the day, it's just blind chance, work hard, holy cow, pure luck that I was there. But everything else I did in my career, period.
I wonder why they were I don't know. I still don't understand why they were the laughing stock. Is it because of the location and the activities they could do in those other places in relation to where they were based versus what these guys could do in the Middle East, the desert, basically? Not a lot to do there. Maybe that's why.
Doesn't matter.
Well, it's a pretty extensive career. How did that operation go?
We took the Joint Special Operations Commander was responsible for getting bin Laden. Our job in Special Forces was to take down the Taliban. Unconventional warfare. We were overthrowing the government with indigenous forces, resistance forces, guerrilla forces. So our job was to overthrow the Taliban government. We were, they attacked us on September 11th. We took, the government changed on December 7th. So
it happened that fast?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think historically it will go down as the most brilliant irregular warfare, unconventional warfare campaign probably in the history of the world. Hasn't really been studied yet. I'm kind of hoping somebody does some serious study on it. The issue is we ended up losing, right?
Well,
we ended up losing.
Before we go the whole length, if you want somebody to study it, then let's dig in right now. So what was step one in your planning process? I mean, that's a huge task.
I was intimidated. I had checked this out. At a certain point, if you're an officer, you go to this thing called the Command and General Staff College, usually about 10 years of service, and you go and get your master's degree, and you learn about operational art, big war stuff, right? I got to go to that, Newport, Rhode Island. So I learned that stuff, but then all of a sudden you're having to do it. And you're like, wow, this isn't school work anymore. You know what I got lucky with, though?
What's that?
There was this senior warrant officer. A warrant officer is between a non-commissioned officer, a sergeant, and a commissioned officer, a lieutenant, captain, etc. There's this beautiful, and you have in the Navy SEALs, limited duty officers and petty, or do you have warrant officers in?
We have warrants.
Warrant officers are, they do one thing their whole career, so they become subject matter experts and professionals. Usually they're helicopter pilots or intelligence people. Special Forces also has warrant officers. So they are the continuity. They are the experts on everything. And there was this old grizzled warrant officer, and he was a little bit of an iconoclast. He used to paint his pinky fingernail. He would like do artwork on it. And I was like, that's moxie. I mean, you've got some throw weight when you can paint your fingernail and nobody says to remove the fingernail polish. This guy was a genius. And I said, Chief, what do I do? You know what come on, sir. So he had it. He figured it out. We worked together over 2 nights. And because we were moving really, really fast, Sean. We were moving fast. This isn't like, do a concept development and submit it in 60 days, and then we'll review it and send you back feedback in 60 days. This is like, and they talk about special forces like you're going to do strategically important things that will be tracked by the White House. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Come on, save me the public relations campaign. We're doing that. Like this chief and I are feeding, we're not the ones briefing it, but we're feeding this concept in that literally is not taking 60 days. It's going from us, doom, Pentagon, White House.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got it done, man.
So can we get a little, I mean, if we can't, can we get a little, if we can, I would love to get a little more elaborate. I mean, you've just been tasked with taking out the Taliban government, going behind enemy lines, linking up with a resistance force. Who's the resistance force? How are you going to link up with them? How are you going to overthrow that government?
Great question, Sean. I'm glad that he's digging into it. Hopefully, maybe that's why it takes three interviews or 3 chunks at it. So hopefully this guy, Chris Miller, is able to delve into what he can.
How are you going to insert? I mean, this is huge picture. I mean, this is big picture, way above my pay grade. How do you start
above
this?
Mine too.
What's step one?
Step one was, what is the resistance potential? Are there any groups that we can link up with that will accept us? And of course, there was this thing called the Northern Alliance. The leader of the Northern Alliance was Ahmed Massoud, who had been killed by this Al-Qaeda attack where they had a deception op where they showed up on the 10th of September with a film crew from some Arabic television station. The film crew, the camera was rigged with explosives. They blew the thing up and killed Massoud, destroying the leadership of the Northern Alliance, right? So there was already in existence this resistance group that was all up north, that was really very segmented, balkanized. They'd been pushed back. They were about to get defeated. So it was pretty simple at that point. Like, we got the north, right? Your point, though, like, how do you get there? My boss at the time was this guy named, he's now retired General John Mulholland.
I wonder, and I'm guessing the connections, the introductions, is that through the CIA to make all that happen? There's got to be, surely they've got their fingers in it somewhere to be able to make the connection. I can't see you just flying in and being dropped off and then walking around to aimlessly looking to try to meet with somebody. There must have been other elements, and maybe he talks about it, maybe he doesn't. Maybe that might be why he can't talk about certain things.
Mulholland, just absolute epitome of commander, gentleman, really, Vince Lombardi, though, really, really hard on you. Like, you're going to perform. He's the commander of the 5th Special Forces Group. And we got to fly helicopters through the Hindu Kush, the Himalaya mountains, right? To link up with these groups of the Northern Alliance that had been selected. So you got a 12-man A-team up in Uzbekistan. They're going to get on a helicopter. They're going to fly down. They're going to land in the middle of the night, literally middle of the night, on a grid coordinate, with the expectation that when they get off that helicopter and they show, they've got the red lens flashlight and do, turn, like, when you come off the helicopter, turn to 62 degrees magnetic and click your flashlight 4 times. This is what these kids are doing.
Man, this is old school.
I
remember these
Sean,
days.
This is old school. You know what our GPS were? We bought Garmin E-Trex. It was the first generation of commercially available GPS. Government, what did the military have? They had this huge, like, low tram.
Yeah, we had this big, ugly green block thing, looked like a brick. I can't remember what the name of it was, but that was a bit of a munted beast, that thing. I didn't even know how to work that thing properly. We were doing some training. Thankfully, one of our sergeants, one of my platoon sergeants, this is in the infantry, knew how to use it. Or it appeared that he knew how to use it, entering in waypoints and doing all these other bits and pieces on it. I was like, holy heck, this bloody thing. And then when these little Garmin E-Trex started coming out, and there were guys that were buying them and having them as part of their kit, those were the blinking duck's guts right then at that time. So it's hard case listening to this guy talking about what they had, and then sounds like what they went and purchased, the civilian type one, which was at the time anyway, seemed to be better than the ones that the military were using or
like GPS things that were this big, remember? And you only got like one of those per 400 people, right? You didn't have that. We all had these
we probably had one for each battalion.
generation E-Trex, but that was about as technologically sophisticated as we had. But here's where I was going with this. Mulholland is getting his ass beat by the Pentagon because each night the weather conditions would collapse and he wouldn't launch forces in helicopters because he's like, they're going to crash, right? And that's moral courage. Can you imagine? He's an 06. That's relatively junior person in the whole scheme of things. We have 4-star generals. He's in charge of the response, an 06 colonel of special forces. And he keeps saying no to, they call it infiltration, as you know, right? Conditions don't match. We're going to lose a helicopter. Finally, skies open and we make our first successful infill. The guy that, well, horse soldiers go on all day. But Mulholland, I understand the Pentagon was planning to fire him because they didn't think he was aggressive enough.
Wow. I'm going to pause this here. It's nearly 30 minutes. This Mulholland guy, the, what do you call him? An E6? Sergeant Major? Massive respect to him. Moral courage, I reckon, standing his ground and understanding the situation, wanting to give the task, the operation, the best chance of success, and not just going in willy-nilly, waiting for those weather conditions. It probably still wasn't perfect, but it was likely better, and met the threshold, I guess, of what he was willing to risk his soldiers for. Interesting that they were talking about looking at firing him because he wasn't aggressive enough. Jeez, man. Can tell you what, if he had sent people in and that weather was crap, then they'd probably be investigating him for being overly aggressive and not making better decisions. So good on him for standing his ground. Anyway, I'm going to leave this one here. Cool listening to this guy, man. There's a lot going on with regards to when he's talking about and what he's been talking about. Definitely interesting. Love the way Sean has used the time to dig in, to start trying to learn a little bit more and hear a bit more about, what was step one, what did that look like? Because based on what this guy, a very humble guy, this Chris Miller, this was the most pivotal and most important part of his military career, which is interesting that he would say that given his resume and what he's achieved so far. So anyway, appreciate your time. If you made it this far, thank you very much for your support as always. That being said, the message is always the same. Any challenges, difficulties, trials that you may be going through, man, keep staying in the fight. Put one foot in front of the other, take one day at a time, and just keep turning up. Just keep turning up. I promise you things will get better. The sun will shine again. There are better days ahead. So as always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there's a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.